sure the controller in the back anyway. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المأسومين المظلومين. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It seems we're a little bit behind schedule, so we will not wait for those who are getting their tea. Also because of the schedule and we don't want to keep you too late, I will cut any introductions or preliminaries inshallah. Continuing on from where we began our discussion today regarding Tawheed as a religious belief system, and from that talk that we just had before our salat break, one important, crucial part of this discussion of Tawheed is how we want to go about discussing it, for what purpose. See, when you come and you want to discuss a topic, typically in a more academic setting, we did want to create an academic setting, but in that type of academic setting, whether that be a university or a hawza or whatnot, typically the discussion starts by breaking up what it is we're talking about and for what purpose. For example, when you want to begin studying a science, you'll begin learning about why it was called this science, who founded this science, who gave it its name, how was it developed over time, etc. Till we get to the point in the discussion where we say, well, why are we even studying this science? I don't know what's up behind me, so I can't say next slide. I don't know if someone touched a slide. This was the preliminary I promised I wouldn't give you, but it's almost done. Therefore, this discussion that we need to have when it comes to discussing Tawheed is, what is the point? What kind of discussion are we having here? And the reason why we want to address this is because the debate, or the God debate regarding the existence of God, is one that we've had for centuries. And more recently, within our contemporary times, it has kind of taken off in a more, in a different style, right? In the different debates that you see online that are posted on YouTube, whether it's an academic setting of a debate in a university, for example, or whether it's out in the park or on the street, the dawah guys you see on the street, the Christian dawah people, if they call it that they have on the streets, the Jehovah's Witnesses. This God debate takes on various forms. We want to know, when we're discussing Tawheed, in what capacity and for what purpose are we discussing Tawheed, so that at the end of this discussion we arrive at some sort of concrete conclusion. The example that we want to give when it comes to this discussion is that imagine you have two people who are sitting in a car. You're both going on Highway 400, for example, or 404 for that matter. And these two guys are discussing, when you go up north past Barrie and you go up more closer towards like Collingwood and those northern cities or villages for that matter, or towns, there's different farmland that you drive past. So imagine you have the guy who's driving, the guy in the passenger seat, and they start to debate. And they look out the window on the right side, my right, and they say, one guy says, that land is fertile. The other guy goes, no man, that's not fertile land at all. And he says, no, trust me, I'm looking at it, it's fertile land, I know the signs. He's saying, no, you're mistaken, it's not fertile. And they go back and forth. Question, when you're driving in a certain direction, okay, you're driving on the highway, and you're speaking about what you see outside the window, no matter what the outcome of this discussion is anyone going to get out of the car, go to the owner and say, I would like to purchase your land because I've decided that it is fertile land and I want to farm here? That's not the purpose of the discussion. In fact, you might even argue there was no purpose to that discussion. That was just trying to kill time because it's a 4-hour drive to go up north. Correct? This discussion has no outcome. We're not going to get anywhere from this discussion unless the debate was, shall we purchase this land or not? Then the discussion is, well, is it fertile? That makes sense. So when the two travel companions are debating one another, this kind of conversation doesn't get them anywhere. However, If the discussion was, the guy in the passenger seat says, yo, you took the 404 north. We needed to go south. This is a very practical discussion. Why? Because if the guy in the passenger seat is right, and he's saying, this is Highway 404 north, it's the wrong direction, and the guy says, no, we're going 404 south. If that driver is wrong, then in every minute that passes, they're getting further and further from their destination. And if that guy who is in the passenger seat who is saying, we need to turn around, if he is actually right, then that driver better hit the brake, take the first exit, turn around and go the other way. If not, they're getting further from their destination. That's the practical discussion. Our discussion on Tawheed must be this. Our discussion on Tawheed must have practical implications. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're saying, God exists. The other guy says, God doesn't exist. Well, God does exist. Okay, so what? Because at the end of the day, we need to understand, even when you look at the statistics, and Canada, I think, has a 35% atheist population, for example. I think in the UK, it's much higher. Because in the UK, you have to factor in atheists, then the Christians. Because there are different types of Christians in the UK. Some of those Christians in the UK they're basically atheists, right? It's literally lip service. Their whole ideology is literal lip service. So on paper, you have a lot of atheists. So you would say, well, this God debate is very important then. We say, even those atheists, when you push them hard enough, you'll realize that they have no argument to disprove God. That's heavy. If they have no argument, they're weak, they're just out there, they're swinging, and then you corner them all of a sudden. All of these atheists, if your discussion is not practical, will turn around and say, you know what, one second. Fine, God does exist. Now what? Now you're stuck. Now, as the muwahhid, as the monotheist that you are, or at the very least the theist that you are, against the atheist, who is now claiming that even if I believe in God, so what? If you have no answer to this very important, pertinent, crucial question, your whole God debate goes out the window. He says, so what? God does exist. Now what? What changes? The conclusion that we've arrived at, when we analyze the arguments, I don't even know if these slides are changing. I think I should be on the first slide right now. I don't know what you guys are looking at. When you analyze what the atheists have been saying, you'll realize that atheists don't have an argument to disprove God, but rather, after all of this time, the most that they've been able to achieve is to say, your various arguments that you bring to prove God, Mr. Theist, has some holes in it, and I want to poke them. That's the furthest that they're going. Saying this argument is flawed. Doesn't add up. There's a bug somewhere, which is fine. Some of these we responded to in the course of history. Some of them they're right. It's a weak argument. We just use it for the sake of debate. It's not actually our what we call burhan. It's fine. Can you disprove God? They can't. Okay. They can't disprove God. So then what school of thought do they have here? What kind of ideology do they have here? It doesn't look like it's a very philosophical school of thought that they have. It doesn't seem like they've come to the fore in general. We're not speaking about every single individual. It doesn't seem like they've come here to the God debate to present their philosophical school of thought or their philosophy. Rather, we've understood by examining the arguments of the atheists that they have a social school of thought. What does that mean? It means that they looked at the effects of theism, of religion or organized religion, and said, what is this? You don't know how to govern a society. Our secular model is more effective. Your model is not effective. So now what they're arguing is that our social structure, our secular, atheistic, materialistic social structure is more effective than yours. There's a benefit to our type of society, not yours. Question. That was our whole introduction. Question. Valid points that you're making. Which religions are you speaking about? Which religion is it? Which religious government is it? Which religious society is it that you're referring to? When you say that religion is holding us back, religion is regressive, religion is backwards, religion bears no fruits in society. Which one? Who? Where? You see, their argument isn't all incorrect. From the get-go, because they couldn't disprove God. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this. I don't know if the ayah is in Arabic on the board or on the screen, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا لَهُمْ بِذَلِكَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ. They have no knowledge of what they say. They say, نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا, we live, we die, and then at the end of time, we go back into the earth. And Allah says, إِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. It's all conjecture. This is the point in our discussion where the atheist is cornered, because all he has is conjecture. He's cornered, and now he's kicking, and he's saying, wait a minute, I have a way out of this corner. Theist, what are the social benefits of your religion, of your belief? If you can't answer that question, I'm not actually in a corner, because it doesn't matter. You believe in God, I don't believe in God. Two claims. No bearing on society. Then we said that what they're actually rejecting is organized religion in the way that they govern society. They say our secular model is better. So who are they talking about? That was our question. Who are they talking about when they make this claim? You see, the materialists and the atheists, when they claim that mankind has suffered many wounds from theocratic rulers and theocratic governments, as opposed to secular leaders, what they are referring to are religions that say that turn the other cheek, trust God. You don't need to go out and make an income, O poor class of society. Have tawakkul. Rely on God. There's no need for you to make a living. And at the same time, they'll tell the rich people, give a little bit of charity for the atonement of your sins. This is a kind of religion that allows for the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer. This is a religion that allows corruption to exist under their noses. If that's the religion you're talking about, we stamp that out too. We disagree as well, Mr. Atheist. Let's team up. That's the religion you're talking about? We don't agree. In fact, no religion is better than that kind of religion, because that religion allows oppression and corruption to exist in society. Your way of a secular atheistic society is better than a society that's keeping the poor downtrodden. We agree, if that's what you're saying. Any sort of religion that allows the rich to get richer, that allows for the unjust rulers to maintain their grip over society, is not a religion for us. Our claim is something else, though. Now we tell the atheists that if that's what you mean, we're on the same side. The problem is when you want to take a blanket statement and label all of religion in this way, take all religious governments and paint them with the same brush, we have to stop you and say that what you're referring to were religious theocratic governments that were legitimately overthrown. Legitimately in the sense that they did not deserve to rule. They were causing regression in society. But that's not the religion we're introducing. When we speak of Tawheed, there are practical outcomes to Tawheed that allow for this society to thrive. You see, when they make this claim, there's a big misconception. I don't know if the misconception slide is up right now. The misconception that they have is that in their argument, they're saying that religion has come for the sake of hereafterly salvation. If you were to put the belief in the hereafter aside, then there's absolutely no benefit to your religion. Before we continue this God debate or this discussion on Tawheed, we say, 1 second, our religion did not come for the akhirah. Our religion, in fact, did come for us to reach perfections in this world. This religion is for here. It's to pave a path in society for us to be able to live at the highest peak of human perfection. That's our deen. If someone else's deen has come and is holding you back, that's on them. You still haven't been able to defend your model. All you were able to say is, that guy was bad. Yeah, the Renaissance happened. And those who were ruling at that time were corrupt. And they deserve to go. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Next, they'll say, fine, we agree. Those people that you're speaking about, we disagree, you disagree, we're on the same side, fine. But one second, are we not progressing just fine without religion? Those religions were bad. You agree, I agree. But after all this time now, to put the hereafter aside for a second, because you don't have an argument for that one. Put the hereafter aside. Are we not progressing just fine after all these scientific advancements? Are we not okay? Why do we need religion? You haven't answered that question yet, right? We haven't said what the outcomes of Tawheed are, which hopefully you want to say in the next 20 minutes or so. Are we not progressing just fine? As opposed to those other religious societies that we talked about? Here we say, is it the case, before we tell you what the outcomes of Tawheed are, is it the case that it's religion that holds society back and that it's your secular model that pushes it forward? Is it atheism and materialism that provides the groundwork for scientific advancements in society, and religion is not a proponent of this? We haven't even answered what religion does support and what it does push. Right now we just want to answer, is it the case that you guys thrived because of materialism and we haven't because of our religious inclinations? Of course, keep in mind, they're not attacking religious people. Benjamin Franklin was a Christian. Isaac Newton was a Christian. All these individuals believed in God. They're not attacking the religious person. They're saying your religion did nothing for you. We say, first of all, on the defensive, religion never held us back. In a span of just over 4 decades, if you look at what the Islamic Republic was able to achieve under all the sanctions that they were faced with, that wasn't a result of a secular atheist government. That was a government founded on divine values. So it wasn't religion that held them back. Just in May, if you recall, there was a Navy flotilla, an Iranian Navy flotilla that went around the world. It went through like the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. It caused a stir in a lot of European countries. Was religion holding them back there? Right. So religion didn't hold us back. Does religion cause us to progress? We say if you look at our rich Islamic history, you'll find that all of these various inventors and all of these various scientists that you now quote in your books today were inspired from the maktab and the school of thought of our ai''imah. Our ai''imah were proponents or were they opponents of these scientific advancements? So we're not holding you back. You haven't answered one last question, which is the theme of our talk right now. So you're not holding us back, but what is it that you're giving us then? What is it that you're giving us? What are the outcomes of Tawheed? Number 1. Do you have it on the screen? Is it there? Number 1. There are differences between the people that believe in Tawheed and those who don't believe in Tawheed. The first is belief in ownership, which I believe Sayyid was speaking about in the first talk. You see, today, people accept that God exists. We said they can't disprove God. They don't have an issue with that. But they also believe, although they won't say this in these words, they do believe that they exist independently of God. God can exist, that's fine. That doesn't negate the way I live. But I also exist and I'm independent of God. The belief in Tawheed means that we have the ability to choose, but we don't have the right to choose. Mr. Independent. What does that mean? Let's give an example. Nowadays we hear the phrase, my body, my choice. The proponent of this statement, if you were to ask him or her, do you agree with the statement, your body, my choice? They'll all unanimously disagree. They'll say, no, that's oppression. If it's your body, then it's not my choice. We say, yeah. And this body that you're claiming is my body is not yours either. So it's not my body, my choice. Because you have no ownership over that body that you claim you have a choice over. Okay, well, again, this goes back to this philosophical discussion that we're having. What's the practical outcome? Once one believes that he has no ownership, Allah is the owner. When he believes that creatures don't own anything, the Creator is the one who owns, and He is the only real owner. When this monotheist understands that, then he also accepts that no one in society has any superiority over the other except in his taqwa. Which is something we're going to speak about tomorrow, I believe, about the abolition of social classes. The one who believes in Tawheed, he doesn't believe in a system of classism, of discrimination based off of your financial, socioeconomic class, your skin color, your race. These have no bearing on society. Why? This individual is saying we are all equal in our creation. And there is nothing that I have that is mine that can give me superiority over you. I don't even own this wealth. This skin color wasn't something I was able to choose. I can't even choose when I come and when I leave this world. This is not even in my hands. That individual works in society in a different way. This individual also has no grief. Why? أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Why? Because when this person loses something, he didn't lose something that he ever owned. When you own something and then it's taken from you, it brings about this severe hit of, I just incurred loss. This individual is saying, I didn't own anything to incur a loss. There's a story. I wasn't actually planning on saying the story, but I think it's 9:40 is story time. This story repeats itself twice. Once in the time of the Banu Israel, and once again in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And what had happened was, there was a couple, and they had a gathering in their house. They had invited people over to their house. And so the husband is busy with the guests, he's entertaining the guests. And one son, or I guess two sons, I'm not sure, I think it was one son, he falls into the well outside and he dies. I think there were two sons, I'm not sure. The husband is entertaining the guests, the wife doesn't want to disturb the husband. She takes the boy or the boys out of the well, they're dead now, into the room. Puts them in the room, puts something over the boys, keeps going. After the guests begin to leave, the husband says, so where are our boys? And he says, they're in the room, they're here. And see, in the two versions, one of the Banu Israel, the wife does one thing, which we won't mention. In the story of the Holy Prophet, she does something else. What she does is, she sends the husband off to see the Holy Prophet and says, go ask him this question. By the time he goes to the Rasul and returns, in this version of the story, the boys are dead. When he comes back, the wife says, come, let's eat. Over the meal, the wife says, if someone lent us something and said, hold on to it, and then told us, from that wealth that I told you to hold on to, spend it here, spend it there, spend it there, would you feel any attachment to it? And he said, well, no, it's not mine. You can say burn it for all I care, I don't care. He said, and then at the end he says, I want it back. Do you feel like an attachment to it? He says, well, it wasn't mine to begin with. He says, yeah, Allah gave us a son and took him back. Cold lady, huh? And the husband, he doesn't react the way I just did. The husband says, I'm supposed to be more patient than you are. Subhanallah, you're a very patient lady. He goes immediately to the Rasul and he narrates what happened. And then the Rasul says that, Alhamdulillah, Allah has given us a sabira, a patient woman, like He gave Hadrat Musa in the Bani Israel, the other story. And then the Rasul prays for them. You see, this lady, and as a consequence, the man as well, because they didn't believe that the sons were their possessions that they owned, it was very easy for them to part with it. Likewise, when it comes to our money, the monotheist has the same type of interaction, in the same type of relationship. What kind of relationship? Someone says, you have to pay zakat, you have to pay khums. Now he's not looking for a way to run away from khums. He's saying, it wasn't mine to begin with. God gave it to me. Then he said, there's a portion for the imam, I give it to the imam. What's it to me? This person has no issue parting with his wealth. In Surah Ma'arij, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ خُلِقَ هَلُوعًا إِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ جَزُوعًا وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الشَّرُّ جَزُوعًا وَإِذَا مَسَّهُ الْخَيْرُ مَنُوعًا. See, man has been created with what we call halu'a, means he's covetous. I don't know how to explain it. He's with his claws out, he's trying to go after things, possessions. When ill befalls him, at that point he's like, I worked so hard, I incurred loss, he's closing off the bank account. That's it. No one's touching my money. No charity, no nothing. He gets anxious. And then when good comes his way and people say, will you give to us? He's like, whoa, ho, ho, I just came out of loss. Hold on. The monotheist isn't like this. The muwahhid isn't like this. He's saying, I don't own anything to begin with. He believes that Allah is a provider. Allah is a sustainer. This individual doesn't have issues getting into marriage. What's the one thing hold you back from getting married? Well, I'm not financially stable. Everything else is set. Everything else is set. Just not financially stable. Why don't you have children? Just got to give it a few more years. For what? To save up. You're the provider? Were you the sustainer that kept you alive this whole time? Or was it God? لا تقتلوا أولادكم خشية إملاق نحن نرزقهم وإياكم. We provide for those kids. They're not yours. I'm the owner. I'm the provider. I'm the sustainer. It's not the case, guys, that whoever strives to make a living will make a living. There are people that work hard. They don't make any money. Think of those children that work in the different mines. They work much harder than you and I. Do they get paid? There's no direct cause and effect relationship here. That if you work hard, you will get. Khair. Number 2. We'll go quickly now. Number 2 is the belief in power. Meaning what? Typically, fear dictates what man says and does. Out of fear of losing my job, I'll give in to whatever my boss wants from me. I'll even go to certain places that I'm not supposed to be in. Even outside of my workplace, when I'm not on duty, when I'm not on call, when I'm not working, I'll be wary of my social media presence. I'll be wary of where I'm seen, what clothes I'm wearing, lest my boss catches wind of what I did or what I said or where I was, I could get fired. Look at the impact that this fear has on this person's life. Everything is being dictated by fear of losing his job. In Surah Ma'idah, if the ayah is on the board, please follow along. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَالُوا يَا مُوسَى إِنَّا لَن نَدْخُلَهَا أَبَدًا مَا دَامُوا فِيهَا. Do you know what the story is? After all the miracles that Hazrat Musa alayhi salam showed the Bani Israel, he finally said, let's enter Palestine. It's a promised land. We're going to enter. Allah has promised us victory. And they said, whoa, there's a tyrant in there. He says, yeah, I know, but I split the sea for you. I split the sea into 12 different parts for you. I showed you all these miracles. Trust me on this one. Look at what they say to Bani Israel. فَذْهَبْ. We're not going. You go. Who? أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ. You and your God. Your Lord. Not even ours. SubhanAllah. فَقَاتِلَ. You two. You and your God. You fight. إِنَّا هَاهُنَا قَائِدُونَ. We're sitting here. Because the Banu Israel did not have belief in Tawheed, they did not believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who possesses might, who possesses strength, and that none other than Allah has power over anything, independent of Him. They doubted Allah's plans. When they were faced with this predicament, they looked at the apparent power, the apparent might of this tyrant that was ruling over Palestine. As a result of this fear that they had of that apparent power, they refused to enter the land. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us on multiple occasions. In Surah Al-Baqarah, I don't know how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us, O Bani Israel, did we not favor you and choose you over everyone? We gave you the Ferrari that had the ability to go 500 kilometers an hour. And with that great ability, you crashed it. He reminds us, I showed you the miracles. I wasn't in hiding. It was in the apparent. I was never hidden. Look how you slipped up. So, the understanding of Allah being the only one with power changes the way that we interact with the world. It changes the way that we behave. One more story we'll mention, we'll go to the last one. When the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You know, in Iran, before it was modern day Iran, what they refer to it as the Persian Empire. It had various dynasties. In the Sassanid dynasty, which was concurrent to the time of the Holy Prophet, that dynasty was a dynasty of tyrants. In fact, the majority, if not all of those Persian dynasties were dynasties of evil rulers. Anyway, the Rasul sent an Arab messenger, naturally he was Arab, to this Persian king, inviting him towards Islam. When he gets there, they say, give us a letter. And he says, no, I have to give this directly to the king. Those are my orders. So he goes towards the king, and he takes one step after another, one after another. You think he's scared? You think sweat is dripping from his forehead? Absolutely not. Walks right up to the king, gives him the letter. It's the letter inviting him to Islam. The king says, you came all the way here. Like, what is this for? What are you trying to get at? Look around you. Do you see this? You can see a reflection in a million different cuts of glass around you. Why are you here? You who are wearing rags. There's not a single thing that is worth less than the clothes on your body right now in my palace. What have you come here for? And he responds very nicely. He says, to free the servants, to free mankind from the service of servants so that they may serve Allah. The one who believes that others other than God have power are slaves to them. They're subservient to them. They have no freedom. This messenger, at the behest of the Holy Prophet, is inviting these individuals who are obsessed with themselves towards the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying, leave your material toys. You're like kids. The toys that kids play with are those little trucks and little cars. All that happens when you grow up is now you're obsessed with the actual trucks and the actual cars and the actual money. He's saying, leave this. Come into the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think I'll tell you one more story and then we'll leave it. And we'll go to the third one and we'll finish. The third story is a more contemporary story. Because when we tell stories from the past, people think, well, yeah, that happened, didn't happen, I don't know. In the past few decades, what had happened after the success of the Islamic Revolution was that all of the heads of state, after the revolution was successful, had come in the presence of Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi, and there was a big meeting that happened. Everyone was a little bit anxious. Why? Because they had received news that for the first time a US Navy boat had entered into the Persian Gulf waters. And now it was like a threat, and they were worried, and this had never happened before. This is the first time after the success of the revolution. And Imam Khomeini, without missing a beat, he was a different man. He says, well, if it were me, he wasn't giving a direct order. He was saying, if it were me, the first second that navy entered the Persian Gulf, I would have shot it. Whoa, that's going to trigger a war. He says, I would have shot that. Why? You don't have power. You have no power. Who are you? Allah has power. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What do you mean you're big old America? All you are is great Satan. That belief changes the way that you interact with this world. That was on a political level. On a day-to-day level, when you don't believe that those around you have any real might of themselves, it changes the way you interact with this world. Finally, we'll end. We have, I think, 10 minutes? I think we're almost done. Finally, there are no material distractions for the muwahhid either. Nothing distracts the believer, the muwahhid, the monotheist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Baqarah, I think we have the ayah up there. He says in ayah 165, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, among the people are those who set up compeers. Compeers means associates. Besides Allah, loving them as if loving Allah. But the faithful, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, have a more ardent love for Allah. أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Quick point about the ayah is that in this verse, andad, which means associates as we said, are those things that the people take as objects of worship. These are not necessarily only inanimate objects. They could include idols, but they're not necessarily inanimate objects. Rather, we have a narration which should also be up there from Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Where in the narration he says that this word andad, I don't know, maybe it's not up there, I'm not sure. This word, it refers to the tyrannical leaders. That there are people, those who don't believe, those who are scared, they display their love and their servitude towards these tyrants. Of course, the reason why I said it's not necessarily inanimate objects, some have said that these are idols. Yuhibbunahum. Some of our mufassirin have said yuhibbunahum. Hum refers to human beings. Hum is a pronoun, male, plural pronoun, refers to human beings. Allama Tabatabai also believes that this could refer to idols, angels, people, any false deities. That was just one point on the side. So what is this love that the muwahhid has? Or as the ayah says, alladhina amanu, that they have. This love is a real love. Some have tried to say that love for Allah doesn't exist. Why? Because love is only for physical beings. Therefore, this love is a metaphorical love. This love is قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. This love is equivalent to obedience of Allah, not actual love. You say no, that's not the case. Why? Because if that were the case, then what the ayah is saying is that the believers have ashad. They have a more severe and more ardent love than the mushrikeen, than the polytheists. So if love meant obedience, it means the polytheists obey, but the believers obey more. No, that doesn't make any sense. Why? Because first of all, the polytheists don't obey, and if they did do anything that's resembled obedience, in God's eyes it's not obedience. That's not what it means. So it means love. What do we want to understand from this verse? From this verse, we understand that the final outcome you want to mention of monotheism is that the monotheist is not distracted by any material deity, false deity. One's wealth, wife, children, occupation, comfortable lifestyle, etc. These things don't stand a chance in a duel against Allah. Because for the monotheist, there is no duel against Allah. There's only Allah. He's not distracted by these other things. The love that the monotheist has for his wife, for his kids, for his money, is actually his love for Allah. What's the practical outcome of this? When the groom's side says, if you don't have the wedding mixed, we're calling the wedding off, you say, call it off. Fasiq. Not like that. When the husband says, you look prettier without your hijab, take it off, you say, boy, I'll leave you. No, you can't actually do that. But you stand your ground. You stand your ground. The love I have for you does not compare to the love of Allah. If I love you, it's because I love Allah. You want to take a stand against Allah? There's no material distractions for this individual. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says in a riwayah in Bahar al-Anwar, I don't think I have this one up. Maybe I do, I don't know. لا يمهض رجل الإيمان بالله حتى يكون الله أحب إليه من نفسه وأبيه وأمه وماله ومن الناس كلهم. One's faith does not become pure, doesn't become khalis, until he considers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be more beloved to him than his own self, than his father, his mother, his wealth, everyone. You see, at a higher level, we don't want to enter this discussion. At a higher level, see, the monotheist understands there is no duel between God and another creature. Because there's nothing but Allah. La ilaha, la anything. There is no thing. La shay'a illallah. There's only Allah. See, this has to be explained in its own place, but it suffices to say this. The practical outcome we want to take is this. The monotheist is not distracted by any love other than the love and obedience of Allah. All that he loves is only in the way of Allah. And therefore he doesn't go towards anything except that he is going towards Allah. His love for his wife is his love for Allah. His love for his children is his love for Allah, etc. This person is living a different life than Joe. Joe might do whatever his wife says. Because Joe is afraid of her power. Joe is in love with her. Joe is afraid that she might own half of his wealth if they get a divorce. He's afraid. The believer says, only Allah has power, only Allah has ownership, and my love for you is only the love of Allah. You don't come in the way of Allah. This person is living a different style. So, all you atheists who argue that there are no social implications of Tawheed or of theism in general, you say, no, not the case. I live completely differently than the way that you do. And in conclusion, if you find that the life of a muwahhid does not significantly differ from that of a non-muwahhid, there's a problem in his claim of Tawheed. If there are no fruits from his claim of Tawheed, then you can't say that this individual is truly a muwahhid. Something went wrong. He has to go back to the drawing board. Insha'Allah, we are amongst those who both claim Tawheed, and that our Tawheed is based on understanding, and as a result, we see the fruits of that belief in Tawheed in our day-to-day, insha'Allah. Otherwise, we have a lot of revising to do, and we do have a lot of revising to do, but we want to make sure that we are seeing these practical outcomes. Otherwise, the secular materialist is right. There is no difference. We believe that there is. May Allah give us a tawfiq to deepen our understanding of Tawheed through this conference and after this conference, inshallah, with the barakah of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Brother Husain. So there is chai that is ready now. So we will, I will ask the sisters if they would like to go first. And so once they finish off, then I'll invite the brothers to go and take their chai. And inshallah, we'll continue on with the rest. We'll take like another 2-3 minute break. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.